You have said, quote, "Neither Ananta, Goddess Shri, nor unborn Brahma is dearer to me than my unalloyed devotee," unquote. To prove your own words true, you have now revealed yourself to our eyes. What person who knows this truth would ever abandon your lotus feet when you are ready to give your very self to peaceful sages who call nothing their own? Appearing in the Yadu dynasty, you have spread your glories which can remove all the sins of the three worlds, just to deliver those entrapped in the cycle of birth and death. Obeisances unto you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, whose intelligence is ever unrestricted. Obeisances to the sage Naranarayan, who always undergoes austerities in perfect peace. Please stay a few days in our house, along with these Brahmins, O all-pervading one, and with the dust of your feet sanctify this dynasty of Nimi. Thus invited by the king, the Supreme Lord, sustainer of the world, consented to stay for some time to bestow good fortune on the men and women of Mithila. Shrudadev received Lord Achyuta into his home with as much enthusiasm as that shown by King Bahulashva. After bowing down to the Lord and the sages, Shrudadev began to dance with great joy, waving his shawl. After bringing mats of grass and darba straw, and seating his guests upon them, he greeted them with words of welcome. Then he and his wife washed their feet with great pleasure. With the wash water, the virtuous Shrudadev copiously sprinkled himself, his house, and his family. Overjoyed, he felt that all his desires had now been fulfilled. He worshipped them with offerings of auspicious items easily available to him, such as fruits, ushira root, pure nectarine water, fragrant clay, tulsi leaves, kusha grass, and lotus flowers. Then he offered them food that increases the mode of goodness. He wondered, how is it that I, fallen into the blind well of family life, have been able to meet Lord Krishna? And how have I also been allowed to meet these great Brahmins, who always carry the Lord within their hearts? Indeed, the dust of their feet is the shelter of all holy places. When his guests were seated comfortably, having each received a proper welcome, Shrudadev approached them and sat down nearby with his wife, children, and other dependents. Then, while massaging the Lord's feet, he addressed Krishna and the sages. Shrudadev said, "It is not that we have attained the audience of the Supreme Person only today, for we have in fact been associating with him ever since he created this universe with his energies and then entered it in his transcendental form. The Lord is like a sleeping person who creates a separate world in his imagination and then enters his own dream and sees himself within it. You reveal yourself within the hearts of those persons of pure consciousness who constantly hear about you, chant about you, worship you, glorify you, and converse with one another about you. But although you reside within the heart, you are very far away from those whose minds are disturbed by their entanglement in material work. Indeed, no one can grasp you by his material powers. For you reveal yourself only in the hearts of those who have learned to appreciate your transcendental qualities. Let me offer my obeisances unto you. You are realized as the Supreme Soul by those who know the absolute truth, whereas in your form of time you imposed death upon the forgetful souls. You appear both in your causeless spiritual form and in the created form of this universe, thus simultaneously uncovering the eyes of your devotees and obstructing the vision of the non-devotees. O Lord, You are that supreme soul, and we are your servants. How shall we serve you? My Lord, simply seeing you puts an end to all the troubles of human life. After hearing Shrudadev speak these words, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who relieves his surrendered devotees' distress, took Shrudadev's hand in his own and, smiling, spoke to him as follows. He said, My dear Brahman, you should know that these great sages have come here just to bless you. They travel throughout the worlds with me, purifying them with the dust of their feet. One can gradually become purified by seeing, touching, and worshipping temple deities, places of pilgrimage, and holy rivers. But one can attain the same result immediately simply by receiving the glance of exalted sages. By his very birth, a Brahmin is the best of all living beings in this world, and he becomes even more exalted when he is endowed with austerity, learning, and self-satisfaction, what to speak of devotion to me. Even my own four-armed form is no dearer to me than a Brahmin. Within himself, a learned Brahmin comprises all the Vedas, just as within myself I comprise all the demigods. Ignorant of this truth, foolish people neglect and enviously offend a learned Brahmin, who, being non-different from me, is their spiritual master and very self. They consider worshipable only such obvious manifestations of divinity as my deity form. Because he has realized me, a Brahmin is firmly fixed in the knowledge that everything moving and non-moving in the universe, and also the primary elements of its creation, are all manifest forms expanded from me. Therefore you should worship these Brahmin sages, O Brahmin, with the same faith you have in me. If you do so, you will worship me directly, which you cannot do otherwise, even with offerings of vast riches. So instructed by his Lord, with single-minded devotion, Shrudadev worshipped Sri Krishna and the topmost Brahmins accompanying him, and King Bahulashva did the same. Thus both Shrudadev and the king attained the ultimate transcendental destination. O king, thus the personality of Godhead, who is devoted to his own devotees, stayed for some time with his two great devotees, Shrudadev and Bahulashva, teaching them the behavior of perfect saints. Then the Lord returned to Dwarka. Thus ends the 86th chapter of the 10th canto of the Shrimad Bhagavatam, entitled Arjuna Kidnaps Subhadra and Krishna Blesses His Devotees.